What's up, guys? It's time to finally talk about Nintendo's E3 press conference, or Direct, whatever. Same thing, basically. But, yeah, I already made a video going over Animal Crossing, because I wanted to get that out right away, because obviously I'm a huge Animal Crossing nut, and the majority of you guys seem to be, because I think the majority of my subscribers are subscribed to me because of my Animal Crossing videos, so yeah, I wanted to get that out of the way. We'll touch basis on that a little bit later in the video when we get to it again, but for the most part, that game looks terrific. Really excited for it. But let's talk about the rest of the Direct. So, just a quick note, I'm not going to be talking about every single announcement. That's just like way too overkill. And even if I did, I wouldn't have that much to say about a lot of the games, because a lot of the games just didn't interest me, to be honest, or I know absolutely nothing about. So I'm going to be talking about like more of the bigger announcements and stuff that I'm interested in. So yeah, that makes sense. Let's get into it. Overall, Nintendo's E3 was awesome. They had a fantastic Direct. I was actually, I was surprised how much I ended up liking it, because I went in with, I don't want to say, high expectations, but I guess moderately high expectations, and they still managed to surpass them, so first off, most of the press conferences beforehand weren't that good. Ubisoft wasn't that good. I didn't even watch EA, whatever whatever they did. Apparently it wasn't that good. But the new Star Wars game looks alright, so I'll give them that. Bethesda's was terrible. My one friend is a big Bethesda fan. He came over to my house and we watched it together, and we both were just like, this is bad. They basically just talked about a ton of mobile games and a ton of expansions for Fallout 76. They were freaking out, oh, we added a battle royale in Fallout 76, and I'm just sitting there like, dude, that's too little too late, you know? It's not even the fact that it's a battle royale. I mean, that in concept in the Fallout universe actually is pretty cool, and I guarantee you that battle royale mode in Fallout 76 will be pretty fun. But it's just, dude, one, no one wants to buy Fallout 76 still, and two, if I'm gonna play a battle royale game, I'm just gonna play Fortnite or Apex Legends. They're free and debatably better. So I don't know. Like I said, everyone's different. Everyone, some people might be completely sold on that battle royale mode in Fallout 76, but for me, no, not at all. But the two big conferences that saved it for me, I forgot to mention, Microsoft's press conference was actually pretty good. But the two big ones were Square Enix and Nintendo. Square announced the new Avengers game, which looks awesome. They finally showed off the Final Fantasy VII Remake, which we all thought was in development hell, but yeah, they showed it off, and it looked actually amazing. It looked really good. And then Final Fantasy VIII is being remastered, and yeah, they had a really good conference. I really enjoyed that. There's more stuff that they announced, but those were the three big takeaways for me. But Nintendo, they knocked it out of the park. I thought the Direct was awesome. I will admit there weren't that many, there was only one really big first party reveal in terms of new games at least, but they checked all the boxes that I really want to see in a Direct, plus awesome third party reveals, plus obviously that big game reveal at the end, which we'll get into. So let's just go in order. First up, Dragon Quest and Smash. I was kind of indifferent about it. I mean, I really know nothing about the Dragon Quest franchise. I know that it's critically acclaimed. It's really popular in Japan. I don't really like how it's just called The Hero. I don't know if that's a thing in the Dragon Quest games, but I don't know. It just seems kind of weird to... the announcer, when you click on him in Smash, is just going to be like, Hero! And I don't know. I feel like that'll be a little weird, but whatever. There's a lot stranger things out there in gaming, so I'm not gonna get worried about that. But yeah, apparently 4 different Dragon Quest characters that are all just different skins you can choose between. So I thought that was a pretty cool way to do it. At least it makes them seem a little bit more unique, because a lot of people are just saying it's just another sword fighter, and I mean, I guess maybe I'm not a huge... I'm getting to the point where I'm a little tired of the sword fighters too, I'll admit it, but you know what, there are a lot of people that wield swords that are important in gaming, so whatever. The more interesting announcement was Dragon Quest XI, which is coming to the Nintendo Switch on September 27th of this year. Once again, I don't really have a lot to say, but the reason why it's more interesting to me is because I never played a Dragon Quest game, but I've always heard that they're really good, and I always considered getting into the Dragon Quest franchise. So maybe this will be a good place to start since it's on the Switch, which is the most relevant system to me pretty much, and yeah, it's coming out soon, so maybe I'll pick it up, maybe I won't, I don't know. It's kind of 50-50 on that. So next up, Doug Bowser introduced himself. Well, technically, Koizumi introduced him, and they did a little Bowser skit, which I thought was pretty funny. They had a little animated Bowser there. Well, not little, a big anime Bowser. Big animated Bowser there. And they just joked around like, oh, there's a mix-up. And, you know, I know some people might be like, oh, that was childish. But I think most people, like most of us watching it, it was awesome. Like, it was a funny little thing. If you're complaining about childish things watching a Nintendo Direct, then I don't know what to tell you. That's the point of Nintendo. So I thought it was funny. I liked it. But after that, they talked about Luigi's Mansion 3, the big thing. And I have to say, the game looks awesome. So when the game was first unveiled in the September Direct of last year, it looked good. I was still really excited for it because I love Luigi's Mansion, but it kind of just seemed like a better version of Dark Moon. Whereas this looked like its own unique thing that's really utilizing the horsepower of the Switch. The visuals just looked way better. Like, the lighting was better, textures were better. Luigi just looked way more animated. There's just way more unique ghosts, way more unique locations. I think every floor is actually supposed to have a different theme. So I know one theme was kind of like a jungle or forest. Another theme was kind of like ancient Rome almost. Like they had like a night in a Colosseum battle, like a ghost night. It was pretty cool. And then there was another floor that I'm really, really excited to explore. And it looks like it's like an abandoned movie set, and they have all these different like genres of movies and sections. It looks really cool. In addition to that, the game is apparently not mission-based. During the Treehouse, they said that it's open. I mean, I'm not saying it's like open world like Breath of the Wild, but you know, like how the original game was, which I think is what most of us wanted. We just didn't want to be booted out every single time we did something in the game, and then you go back in and start from point zero again. It's just a little annoying. And apparently, I mean, they said that there are going to be like more unique character ghosts or something, so awesome. I mean, that's basically, like, we're basically getting portrait ghosts back in a different fashion, but I liked what I saw. A lot of the ghosts looked really cool, and I still love the hotel theming. The hotel theming is awesome, and they showed off new mechanics too, so you can now like slam ghosts on the ground. Awesome. I mean, that's just gonna be fun because everyone likes throwing things around, so yeah, throwing ghosts around is gonna be a lot of fun. And you can throw them on top of each other, which I thought was pretty humorous. Definitely could have some good defensive strategies there, but also you can throw like a plunger out, which I think they showed this before, but yeah, you can throw a plunger out and then you can grapple the plunger and pull, so you can like break doors open, and you can even, I think, throw objects that aren't ghosts by doing that. So there's a lot of cool things that you could potentially do with that mechanic. And the last big thing they talked about, other than, well, there was multiplayer, but I don't really care too much about the multiplayer. The multiplayer looks alright. It's like a slightly expanded version of what we got in Dark Moon / Luigi's Mansion 2, depending on where you live. But yeah, it looks fine. I mean, I'll give it a go. But the last like big new mechanic that they talked about, not game mode, was Luigi, who was in, I believe, the Luigi's Mansion remake for the 3DS. And I think whoever was the second player played as him. So yeah, it's kind of cool that he's here. He's not just like a clone of Luigi. He actually has his own attributes. So he can go through spikes because he's made of goo. He can go through like jail cells and stuff like that. I think they showed him getting there was like a toilet overflowing and the water was going down the drain, and Luigi walked into it and got like sucked into the sewer, or not sewer, but the drain. It was pretty funny. I liked it a lot. So that game looks awesome. I think overall, like, that game's be really good. And there is no release date. That was really odd. It comes out this year. It'll come out October, November, but yeah, looking forward to it. Link's Awakening was shown off next. Nothing really crazy to talk about. They didn't add a co-op mode. I was really disappointed. I thought that was a shoo-in, but apparently no, it's not. I think Cadence of Hyrule has a co-op mode, but we'll get into that when we get to that. Link's Awakening, though, pretty faithful remake. It looks pretty one-to-one, just with a very beautiful visual enhancement. So not really a lot to talk about. At the end of the trailer, they did announce that there's going to be a dungeon builder, and everyone, like, I was freaking out at first. I was like, oh my god, like Zelda creator inside this game, but you don't get to make your dungeons completely. Like, when you go through a dungeon in the game, any of the dungeon areas that you, like, once you beat a dungeon, you can take any of the rooms from that dungeon and put it into, like, a little, your own, like, custom dungeon. So you can't actually, like, create your own puzzles or rooms or anything. You can't create the layout in terms of, like, how everything is, but you can, you know what I mean, mix and match rooms of dungeons to create your own dungeon in that sense. To be honest, like, some people are kind of excited for it, and I'm like, if you are, more power to you, that's awesome, but I don't really care. It's whatever. Maybe it'll be more interesting when I try it, but I want full customization. Like, that's what I want. But overall, I mean, the Link's Awakening remake, it looks good. I mean, it's weird for me not to be this excited for a Zelda game. Like, I'm only moderately excited, but I still will probably get it because I do like Link's Awakening. It is a good game. I just wish there was more to it. Like, A Link Between Worlds, I know that wasn't a remake of A Link to the Past, but the amount of stuff they did, like, they took the overworld, like the world from A Link to the Past, and they, well, one, there was the entire, like, there was Lorule, like the Dark World version of the world, but there were just so many new dungeons and things to find out and explore, a completely new story. I was hoping there'd be some, like, story twist that they announce midway through the game. Maybe there is one that they'll talk about later, but right now it looks like a pretty faithful one-to-one remake, which is fine, but, like, I just want a little bit more after what we got with A Link Between Worlds, but that also wasn't a remake, that was a sequel, a predecessor, whatever you want to call it. So, whatever. I'm still looking forward to it, and I think it'll be pretty good. The good thing about the dungeon builder aspect is that Nintendo is now toying around with the idea of a Zelda maker, so hopefully we'll get something like a full-fledged Zelda maker soon. I feel like that's a lot trickier to make than a Super Mario Maker, though, but we'll see. The Witcher 3 was next, and yeah, I mean, it's The Witcher 3. I was pretty impressed that it's coming to the Switch, though, because it is a current-gen game, like an Xbox One/PlayStation 4 game running on the Switch. It's going to run at 30 frames, and it didn't look, like, graphically impressive or anything, but what is impressive is that it's just running on the Switch at all. So I was like, we're playing, like, The Witcher 3 was a game developed for, like I said, the PlayStation 4, Xbox One. We're going to be able to play it on a tablet now. Not even streaming, like, natively on a tablet. That's crazy. It's supposed to be 720p in TV mode and 540p, I believe, in handheld mode. So there'll probably be some dynamic, like, resolution scaling in there, like, thrown in there, but generally speaking, it's going to be around there, like, those numbers, which is fine. I'm actually, like, you know what? I'm not saying those are, like, obviously they're not high numbers, but, like, they're impressive considering it's a huge, like, modern open world game running on a tablet. So I'll take it. It seems pretty cool. Fire Emblem Three Houses was next. Not a lot to talk about. It was a pretty short trailer, but the story does look interesting because they showed off that the way it works is that there are the three houses that all meet up, but then apparently they, like, go their separate ways, and they say that they're going to meet up in 5 years, and then when they meet up, obviously there's dilemma, and they go to war, and then they hate each other or something like that. So I mean, I like that. I actually do like that. It's not just like you start the game and they're immediately just like, oh, these are the bad guys. There's going to be, like, a lot of conflict with, oh, depending on which house you choose, you're going to see different sides of each house or faction or whatever, and yeah, I think there'll be an interesting story in there, so I'm looking forward to it. Also, the gameplay is pretty traditional. They showed off some of the gameplay at the Treehouse live stream. Looked really good. Nothing crazy, but, you know, visuals look good. Typical Fire Emblem gameplay. Cool story. Looking forward to the game. And that comes out July 26th, I think. I don't have the date on my notes. I forgot to put the date, but it comes out in July, late July. Resident Evil 5 and 6 are talked about next. I don't even know why I put that on here. I don't really... I mean, I guess Resident Evil 5 is kind of cool on the Switch. No one cares about 6, though. So, whatever. No More Heroes 3. That was a cool reveal. I never played any of the No More Heroes games, but I know 1 and 2 were really well received, and they looked really fun. So, maybe I'll get around to playing them eventually, but I was really excited to hear that a third one was announced for the Switch. Because earlier this year, back in, like, January, when they announced, or when Travis Strikes Back released, one of the developers or creators or someone said, like, the game has to sell well for No More Heroes 3 to be developed. Which, I don't even think Travis Strikes Back sold that well. I don't know, I didn't look up numbers, but I just heard a lot of negative things about the game. Glad to see that the third one is coming, though, so pretty cool. Pokemon Sword and Shield. So I'm gonna probably make another video to go more in depth on my thoughts about Sword and Shield, and I also want to make a video going over like the growing hatred for Sword and Shield right now, because I feel like ever since like the 3DS games, I started seeing a lot more controversy with Pokemon as a whole. So I kind of want to make a video going into that, so maybe I'll probably make an impressions video about Sword and Shield. I'll probably make maybe one of the hatred video or whatever, because I don't hate Pokemon, but I do agree with some of the things that some people are saying about the series not going in the best direction in ways. But overall, I thought Sword and Shield looked great from what we saw. The wild areas are just exactly what I have wanted in a Pokemon game for so long. I'm really glad they didn't ditch random encounters though, because when I saw the wild area, I was like, oh my god, they got rid of random encounters, because that was one of the things I was happy about in the first trailer that we got back in February, I think. So knowing that there's going to be Pokemon flying around and walking around the overworld, but there's also going to be random encounters, I'm like, that's perfect. That's the best of both worlds. You give everyone what they want. And on top of that, the wild areas just look awesome because they're huge. They're these huge, vast areas that you can, they're open. You know what I mean? It's not just like a line. So I'm looking forward to it. And I think the one controversial thing right now is the lack of a national dex. They confirmed there's supposedly no national dex in the game, which I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think Sun and Moon, when they launched, there wasn't a national dex, and I think they had to be added in, had to be patched in later. Maybe someone can go into more detail about that, but I remember something with that being up with Sun and Moon. Next, they talk about Astral Chain. Nothing to really say. I really like the game. The trailer looked fine. I'm probably going to get it. I'm not 100% sold, but I'm probably going to get it. Cadence of Hyrule is after that, and it's out today, actually. By the time you're watching this video, it's out. This video will be up. It probably, actually, by the time I'm done editing it and getting this video uploaded, it probably won't be until the 14th. But yeah, it came out on the 13th, and gameplay from the Treehouse Live event looked really good. There's co-op, which is awesome. That's what I was expecting Link's Awakening to have, and Cadence of Hyrule got it instead. But yeah, it looked great. I really like the fact that they're adding rhythm, movement in general. Everything's rhythm based, which is really cool. So I always was a sucker for adding rhythm into games. I always had this idea when I was younger of them making an RPG, a turn-based RPG based off of rhythm that probably exists out there already in some form. But yeah, adding it into a Zelda game, genius. I love it. I'm not gonna pick the game up right away because I have way too big of a backlog, but eventually, some point later in the summer or in the fall, I'll probably download it. And we all know... Oh, wait, actually, Mario and Sonic at the 2020 Olympic Games is next, then Animal Crossing. But I never actually played a Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games game before. That's weird to say. But I always have respected them for being party... Because, dude, party games are awesome. On the Wii, I know the Wii was way oversaturated with party games. It had, Wii Sports, Wii Party... We Play, Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games. Those are only Nintendo IPs. I'm not even covering the absurd amount of third-party party games like Game Party, Carnival games, and stuff like that. But as much flack as you can give the Wii for being oversaturated with party games, a lot of them were fun. I loved playing Wii Sports and Wii Sports Resort and stuff like that. And even though I never played a Mario and Sonic at the Olympics game before, I'm interested in this new one solely because the Switch doesn't have that many party games. At least from a first party perspective, there's 1-2 Switch. No one cares about that. And then there's, what else is there? Super Mario Party, which is awesome. But yeah, this is at least a nice minigame collection that maybe might be worth. It might be worth it. Overall, there were a couple of new events. Rock climbing looked pretty cool. I like rock climbing in real life. I don't do it often, but I've been trying to get more into it, so virtual rock climbing seems pretty cool too. Skateboarding is... The thing is, if I see any skateboard video game, I immediately associate it with Tony Hawk Pro Skater, because I used to love those games growing up, so maybe the skateboarding area will be a lot of fun. There was a little retro 8-bit section of that game mentioned for... It wasn't even mentioned. It was just there for a second. So there might be an 8-bit mode or 16-bit mode that you can do where everyone turns into 2D sprites. I don't know what's up with that, but it looked kind of cool. Basically, I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to get this game or not, but if I do, I really hope that there's a story mode. I think there was one in a few of the previous games, so I hope that there's one in this one. And like I said earlier, I want there to be more like Wii style mini games, basically more motion control games. I think there's an archery game that was shown off during the Treehouse Live event or during the demo or something. But yeah, I would just want to see some really awesome motion control games and some type of story mode. And maybe I'll actually pick it up. But yeah, I thought it looked pretty good actually. And then Animal Crossing was next, which we all know if you watched my like 10-minute ramble about that. You know my thoughts. I think it looks awesome. It's funny because like I said, when I first watched the trailer during the live stream, I had my concerns, but rewatching the trailer and seeing the Livehouse stream or the Treehouse live stream, I'm stoked. It looks awesome, and March can't come soon enough. That's all I have to say. There's a sizzle reel after that with a ton of games, but like the highlights for me were probably Spyro, the Reunited Trilogy. I have it digitally on the PS4. I'll probably pick it up physically on the Switch eventually. I'm gonna wait for it to go on sale because I don't want to spend $40 in a game I already own. But like if it goes on sale to like $20 down the line, yeah, I'll pick it up and replay it. And just the portability for it will be nice because the Spyro games, the original Spyro games, are some of my favorite games when I was younger. So, or at least the original one. I only had Spyro 1, but I loved it. It was awesome. Doom Eternal. Looking forward to that. It's gonna be awesome. That was like the one saving grace at Bethesda's E3 event for me was seeing the Doom Eternal gameplay. So naturally, I'm excited for it. I'll probably pick it up on PS4 though, unless I'm traveling. If I'm traveling, I'm not gonna be home when that game comes out. Then I'll pick it up on the Switch. But if I'm not, then PS4. So, and then Mario Maker 2. They literally barely talked about that game at all. It was in the sizzle reel for all but 5 seconds, and they mentioned that it was going to be at the Treehouse live stream early in the direct, and that was it. They barely talked about it. Then the two big things, which, I mean, Animal Crossing was one of them. So the three big things, but the one we already talked about. Banjo and Smash. Okay, let me tell you a little bit of history. So, when I was young, I have two older brothers, and I used to always watch them play Nintendo 64. I was like really young, and we had all these awesome games. Sometimes we played multiplayer games, but a lot of times it would come down to me watching, specifically my one older brother, play a lot of the old Nintendo 64 single-player games, like Super Mario 64, Banjo-Kazooie, Banjo-Tooie, you name it, a lot of other games. And I loved Banjo-Kazooie because it had just like a really fun atmosphere, like platforming was a ton of fun. Like I played a little bit, but for the most part it was really just me watching. But I love the original Banjo-Kazooie. And Banjo-Tooie I know has its criticisms, but like I still like it. But the original one is definitely like Banjo-Kazooie in general, just as a concept and idea. I love it. Then obviously the Rare buyout happened, and that was like one of the saddest moments in gaming for me. I mean, I didn't know it happened right away, but once I found out on the internet, like a few years after it happened, I like nearly cried. I mean, I didn't actually cry, but I was upset though, and I was like, we're never gonna get another Banjo game again. And then Nuts and Bolts came out, and well, there were a couple of Game Boy Advance spin-offs, but like no one really, they didn't end up being anything crazy. But Nuts and Bolts happened, and that was just a slap in the face, and then nothing. So seeing Banjo finally revealed for Smash, I mean, my brothers and I always told, like, we wanted Banjo-Kazooie in Smash in 64. We wanted Banjo-Kazooie in Smash Melee. Because it was actually plausible back then, because Nintendo had, I think, like, a certain amount of stock invested in Rare. So, like, they owned a percentage of Rare. So they, like, didn't, I don't know exactly, like, how that worked. But they had some type of association with Rare, is my point. Rare wasn't owned by Microsoft. All their games were Nintendo platforms. It wasn't the most far-fetched thing. Obviously, now, it seems even more far-fetched, because Microsoft owns them. But since Microsoft has been really pushing not just, like, making everyone buy an Xbox, but they're just trying to get people to play games, like, in media in general. They're just saying, we want to be the supplier of how people play games, not just a console, but in every form. So, like, if they own a Switch, if they own a PC, we want them to be exposed to us. So, like, they're third party, but they're also first party at the same time, which is actually, it's working out for them. Like, some people may have always thought that was a dumb idea, but they're doing really well. They actually have some of the high, like, I think they said they have some of the highest income in a while, at least from, like, a gaming perspective, at least. So, yeah, that's awesome. And seeing Banjo revealed, as soon as I started doing the repeat of the Donkey Kong thing, so you saw, like, the the villains. So you know what I mean, like like Mario versus Bowser, and you kept seeing the protagonist versus the villains. I saw that, and as soon as they showed like they got to Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong versus K. Rool, I was like, wait a second, is this Banjo? And my brother's like, he's like, I don't know. He's like, why? What makes you say that? I'm like, they're repeating the Donkey Kong trailer, and I was like, they're Rare. I was like, it's Rare worked on Donkey Kong games. They created King K. Rool. I was like, this is Banjo, and I was freaking out. And then you see the Jiggy go by, and I lost it. Watching that, and the trailer was so beautifully done too. Like, I never cried during a game reveal, and I didn't cry during this, but I came really close. Like, I felt like a dork watching it, because like I said, it was emotional watching it. I was like, oh, it was crazy. It was a really, really cool reveal. It was one of the coolest reveals I think I've ever seen in gaming. So, yeah. It's funny because Animal Crossing was the biggest thing I wanted to see. And I will admit, like, when I look back, that was probably, like, the most exciting thing. Like, in terms of when the game comes out, I'm going to be more excited for that than when Banjo comes out. But the reveal, just the way they handled the reveal of Banjo, that was the highlight of E3 for me, without a doubt. So, that was the big one for me. And then, yeah, there's a Breath of the Wild sequel coming out. They just kind of threw that in at the end after they took everyone through that emotional roller coaster with Banjo. So, Breath of the Wild 2, it looks good. They're taking a darker twist with it. It looks like, what was it, like the remains of Ganon were being like reawakened or something like that. You saw like there was like a split second shot where like Zelda falls or something like that, but like then she's back. I don't know, but it looked cool. They're using the same overworld as Breath of the Wild, which is perfectly fine because it's a direct sequel, and they've done it before with games in the past. Like Majora's Mask comes to mind. Darker tone, same overworld as Ocarina, just new story with a lot of new design decisions. That's probably what this is going to be. So, really looking forward to it. I hope it has two things. One, I hope it has a really cool dark story, like more involved than Breath of the Wild's. And two, I want more unique themed dungeons. There were only 4 main right? I think there were like 4 main dungeons in Breath of the Wild, and that was it, because the Divine Beasts. I want there to be like 8 or 9 8, 9, 10 dungeons. I want them all to feel way more unique. Because like even the Divine Beast dungeons didn't feel mad unique. Like, I don't know. Like, looking back at a lot of the older dungeons in Zelda history, like, for example, Wind Waker's dungeons. I mean, you could point at any Zelda game, but Wind Waker comes to mind because of the awesome art style of that game. Like, the first dungeon, you're in a volcano. The next one, you're in, like, some weird Forsaken... Okay, there actually is something called the Forsaken Fortress, but you're in this one area where it's, like, a jungle, but it's, like, forbidden... Maybe, I forget what it was called. Was it actually called the Forbidden Jungle? Probably wasn't. I don't know. But point is, I want more unique themed dungeons and more of them in general, but that was like my only real complaint with Breath of the Wild. Otherwise, the game was absolutely amazing. So, yeah, looking forward to the sequel. And that's going to cover it. I mean, that was their direct. That was... It was awesome. That's all I have to say. I know that some people may have been disappointed that they didn't reveal... Like, they only revealed one new game, actually. As far as I can tell, Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games is already announced prior to this direct, so there wasn't anything from a first part, like from a, you know what I mean. Breath of the Wild was the only like new Nintendo game. You could argue No More Heroes, because is that going to be published by Nintendo or was that announced for all systems? I don't know, but regardless, I can see someone being disappointed then. But for me, seeing Animal Crossing finally revealed, seeing Banjo and Smash getting a Breath of the Wild sequel, Luigi's Mansion 3 looks amazing. The wild areas in Pokemon Sword and Shield, like getting that gameplay in the Treehouse Live event, looked so good. That, like, getting all that just was that was already way more than enough for me. And then on top of that, we got some cool third-party reveals. Like I said, I didn't even mention all the Nintendo games. Link's Awakening and Fire Emblem both look good, but even third-party games. No More Heroes 3 is coming out. That looks really good. Spyro is coming to the Switch. I'm really excited for that. Well, we knew about Doom Eternal already, but point is, a lot of these games look super good. The Witcher 3 was a big reveal too. I'm looking forward to that, actually. Might not get it right away, but once it gets cheaper, maybe I'll pick it up. So overall, this E3, as a whole, the E3 wasn't that great, but Nintendo and Square, they're the boys that saved E3, at least to me. So, yeah, let me know what you guys thought about the press conference, or direct, in the comment section below. And I guess that's all there is to talk about. So Don't forget to leave a like and all that stuff that us YouTubers are supposed to say at the end of our videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.